Yeah, welcome to the Making of Me podcast, where we explore the stories and lessons that help people overcome challenge and grow stronger. Our today's guest is Carine Van Hee, an artist, actor, and speaker who transformed her personal experience with toxic relationship into practical tools for healing. Carine is an author of Is It Me? The hidden system behind toxic relationship, and she empowers survivors to understand, recover from, and break free from emotional abusive relationship. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, Karen.
Thank you very much for having me, Aro. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, Karen, what were some of the challenges or experience that shape you into who you have become today?
Oh, that's a very good question. The biggest challenge that for me was being in a toxic relationship. Because when I was like 13 or 14 years old, that young girl, I was sure I would never end up in a toxic relationship at all. Because I hadn't seen it at home, so I was okay, right? And I think many of us think the same.
Yeah.
We go like, nah, we're never going to be in a toxic relationship. So when I was in a toxic relationship, I had no clue. And it took me a long time afterwards to understand that I had actually been in a toxic relationship. That was like the biggest revelation for me in my life. Recovering when I was 59, I'm 62 now.
What?
When I was when I was 59, I discovered for the very first time, my goodness, this is no good. I have been in a toxic relationship.
Wow, that was really a whole lot of being that. More like being in toxic relationship. And looking back, you saw some particular model that speak volumes to it. Yeah, it's really a whole lot, and I'm glad that you're healed now and you champion that particular energy in helping people do what they do differently and saving themselves from toxic relationship. Amazing. So, Karen, your work centers on the ideas. It is not you. You are not alone, and you can heal. Can you unpack why this message is so important for survivor of toxic relationship?
There's a lot in there, I have to say. But when I actually discovered that I had been in a toxic relationship because there was something else that happened in December 2023. My mom died. And whilst I was sitting next to her bed and talking to my brother about what a lovely life she had, we looked back at her life and there were stories coming up that were not congruent with the thought that she had had a good life. And then we puzzled everything together, and that, for me, it was the first time that I discovered she has been in a toxic relationship for over 65 years. And then I decided, okay, me as a child, I didn't even see it. How come? So I wanted to find the answers to that. And then diving deep into all the things around narcissistic abuse, toxic relationship, what have you, I discovered that there's patterns. And if you know the pattern, then you understand that you are a healthy person in an unhealthy relationship and it's not you. And because of the fact that I got all that mirrored back to me, I discovered when I was 59 that the pattern that I just discovered because of my mom and dad had been the pattern I had been into. And then because of the fact that I could feel like, oh my God, now I have the answers to all the whys behind the toxic relationship, I could feel it's not me. And I could feel like the shame going away, go like, it's not me, I don't have to be ashamed anymore. And then I thought, I have to get this message out. Because when you're in a toxic relationship, you have this huge feeling of being alone. You really think you're the only one in a toxic relationship, but you're not. If you look at the statistics, 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men are underrated because they don't dare to express that they're being bullied or in a toxic relationship. So there's so many things that come up. I go like, it's not you, you're not alone, and you can heal. Although I have to say, healing takes a long time. I'm still not healed. It just takes time.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Karen. So how does a toxic relationship usually start? And what are the early red flag people often miss?
When I talk about toxic relationships, I really start with the fact that you get to know somebody and he's like charming, charismatic, cool, loving. When I met this human being for the very first time, I was like, this is too good to be true. What a wonderful human being this is. I was so taken back. I was so happy So you can't see it. It's not detectable. Then the next thing is like the love bombing phase where they give you lovely feedback. And I see on Instagram these people talking about, he gifted me a car and he gave me a house and we went on a trip together. I didn't have all of this. It was just lovely post-it with a note on it, or there was a lovely feedback, or it was small, but it was really touching. So the love bombing to me it felt rather normal. But what I learned to understand is that people that will drag you in a toxic relationship are actually spotting for people who will give them unconditional love despite their behavior. So if you're a caring human being, introspective, loving, supporting human being, then they like you because you probably will give them unconditional love despite the bad behavior. This is a thing I didn't know. The spotting is even before they get to know you. They spot all the time when they're walking to the gym, when they're talking to friends, going to a party. They're spotting for people with these qualities all the time. So then they get to know you. You have the love bombing, and then what happened with me is he came with a sad story that would give me excuses in my head to look for answers or look for forgiveness with his bad behavior. He came to me with sad stories about how his upbringing was really rough, how he had been bullied at school, how his parents divorced when he was at a young age, how he moved 13 times before the age of 18. So it was a lot of sad stories. And I was like, he just tells me all this in a really vulnerable way, and I could feel my heart open because of that. And when they know that you're hooked, then they will start moving really fast. And really moving really fast is one of the really red flags of a toxic relationship, because they're gonna move you in, let's move together, let's invest together, let's start a business together, let's have a baby together. Wow. And that's how
Yeah, I think this is really a whole lot in that. I think from what you just said now, it's going to be difficult to spot out, especially for a first love, where you get to kind of, love is powerful, and sometimes a whole lot of advice will go all out without you even getting to see any signal at all. So how does enablers of those around us sometimes inadvertently extend the duration of toxic relationship?
Yeah, when you talk about enablers, that's like one of the biggest thing I didn't know, is that friends and family can turn into enablers. They enable the story of the abuser. So we had a son of 1 month old, and it was the most devastating night I had ever been through. Where the abuse started, moved from mental, emotional into physical. And I remember that night, after being shook like a bag of potatoes, I remember I was counting the seconds till the next day, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to phone my best friend who lives around the corner. She needs to help me. I need to get out. And when I phoned her, she said to me, Karen, life is not about you only. Sometimes you have ups and downs in relationships, and just get up and get on with your life, really. And she put down the phone. What I didn't know is that she had become an enabler of the story that he had told her about our relationship. I don't know what the story was, but it was obvious that she didn't believe me anymore. She didn't believe my story or my question for help. And this is really, that's something that that was the most devastating thing ever. What is more, when I was going through divorce, people would look away. People would not say hello anymore. And it's because abusers will start sharing stories which are perhaps, it could potentially be true, but are not the truth. And people just believe that. They don't double check. They don't check with you. So they enabled him and his story. And it makes you really stand alone and being victimized for the second time, actually.
It's true. That's
no fun.
Not fun at all. Really a whole lot. Yeah, really a whole lot. Also, living in a toxic relationship can feel liberating, but also extremely challenging. How did you navigate the dark period after leaving, especially as a new parent?
After leaving, it was challenging. My nervous system was completely out of balance. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. It was really challenging. And I was only left with a few friends. And I didn't understand. There were so many whys in my head that I didn't understand. Why did this happen? Why did this wonderful human being that I got to know like 4 years and a half ago. Why did it change like that? So it was so many questions. I couldn't sleep. My nervous system was all over the place. And I think that's something that we underestimate as friends, family, and society. And that victims, it takes a long time to get healthy again because of the nervous system has been attacked all the time. You're on your toes, walking on eggshells all the time when you're in a relationship. So when you're out, you need to take care of yourself first. And I moved out because of my son. I wanted to be in an environment without aggressivity and talking down and all this stuff. So I moved out because of him and looked after him first. But we should look after ourselves first as victim. We should make sure that you get healthy again. And to me, that was starting to move my body. I started to jump rope because I could do that in the neighborhood of my son. But it gave me some breathing space. It gave me some oxygen in my body, and it was good. I started to go into therapy because I didn't understand. I needed to have the answers to the questions I had. So I've been to therapy for a long time to try to understand what happened and the reasons behind. Started to meditate because you have to look after your body, but also in your mind. Because as a victim or survivor of abuse, you're in your mind all the time. You don't feel your body anymore. And I could hear him talk, even if I wasn't together any longer. When I remember I was going into a shop, celebrating the fact that I was now living on my own. I could decide for my own again. Wanted to buy a vase for my flowers. And there were two colors, a pink one and a blue one. And in my mind, I could hear him say, "You don't know how to decide. You don't know which one to choose. You don't." And I was like, So I will run out of the shop and didn't buy anything. So the first step is be conscious about the fact that there's somebody in your head still, even if you don't live together anymore.
Wow,
so
that's a whole lot. And the journey is, I'm just wondering how it would have been like being that. Those moments cannot be, you can forgive and let go, but those moments cannot be forgotten. Being that, they will keep coming every now and then. It's really a whole lot. So you emphasize that this is not a conflict, it is abuse. Why is it crucial for people to understand this distinction?
I hear, since I've published a book, I have a lot of people, survivors, who contact me. And one of the things that I hear a lot is that they say, and then I started to inform my family that we're going to divorce, that I'm going to divorce this lovely human being, charismatic, charming, everybody only sees this. And then the family says to them, but why don't you go back and try to explain a bit more? It's not a conflict, it's abuse. So there's a huge difference, because if you have a conflict, you have two people in the same worth, in the same power, in the same on the same place, trying to talk about the conflict, trying to look for solutions. But when you're abused, then there's somebody with a lot of power and somebody else with less power. That's something totally different. That's where you get the whole system being used upon you from a powerful position, and you're the victim. You don't know that there's a system being used. So it's totally different. It has to do with, you feel like, if it's a conflict, then two adults are talking. If you're in an abusive relationship, then you have a powerful and you have a less powerful person. So it's totally different dynamics.
Yeah, amazing. I think this just people have been that, when it comes to abuse, there's a person who is more powerful and the other person is the one being abused, compared to when it's conflict. We speak volumes to the both of them, both the enablers, being that, it's both energy come from it. Thank you for the lot for the explanation. So what does toxic relationship affects? How does a toxic relationship affect a person's mind, body, and even long after the relationship ended?
What I felt is because of the fact that when a system is being used on you, when you have the isolation and the silent treatment and the gaslighting and the devaluation, the whole thing being used on you, what that happens is that they make sure that you're in your head all the time, and that you're disconnected from your body. Because if you would listen to your body, you would feel the fear, you would feel your anger, you would feel your frustration, you would feel your loneliness, and you would leave. But because of the fact that they use that system on you, you're in your head all the time. And because of the fact that you're in your head, you're ruminating. You're replaying the same conversations over and over again. And that's why it's so important to stay connected. That body-mind is one thing. That's why it's so important to feel that, not to get disconnected at all.
How the toxic relationship affects both your personal mind, which you just explained, that of the body, and long after the relationship ended.
Oof, long afterwards. It's like I'm still healing. I'm still looking for ways to get in balance more. I'm still looking for... I've studied again when I was 35. I studied family science, where they look at partner relationships, where they look at family systems, where they give you education about psychology, behaviors of people. So I studied again. And still, I didn't discover that I was in a toxic relationship. So there's a lot of things going on. And the more you get to know yourself better, the more you heal, the more you see the total picture. So it's like it takes a long time to heal, and it's never done. It's just never done. I'm just becoming more myself.
Yeah.
I think that's the best expression of I'm just becoming more. And I'm still following courses. I'm like addicted to personal development courses because it makes me understand who I am better. And I still follow courses on trauma release, because I discovered that I'm still traumatized. Perhaps not that much as in the beginning, because it's now 25 years ago. But still, there are still things coming up that trigger me. That I go like, ooh, that's something not from before.
Yeah.
Not from now.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So your book provides practical strategy. Can you share 2 clever ways to avoid engaging with a toxic person without harming yourself?
Yeah, I wish I'd known that when I was in the toxic relationship myself. I remember that I had this silent voice telling me, Karen, it's not normal. Listen to the voices inside of your head. But this was the only things I had. I didn't have any tools. What I have learned now is when you still need to deal with a toxic person because you're sharing, they're part of the family, or you have to work together, because toxic relationships are not only happening between men and women, they also happen on the workplace, they also happen with friends. So it's something that's all over. If you have to continue to see somebody toxic, there are 2 ways to deal with them, and it's called gray rocking, like a gray rock, or yellow rocking. Yellow rocking means you talk to them, but you don't share any emotion. You don't share how you feel, what your aspirations are, your dreams are, whether you slept well or not. No emotions at all, only facts. What is on the agenda? What do I need to take with me? Talk about weather, how lovely or not lovely it is, but stay with the facts. That's yellow rocking. When you don't have to deal with the toxic person anymore, when you go, for example, no contact with a parent that is very toxic, then you become a gray rock. Uninteresting, you do not react at all. These are the 2 tools I've been discovering, and I think they're really helpful.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Carine. Also, Carine, if someone wanted to support a friend or family members or trapped in a toxic relationship other than being an enabler, what are the most effective way to do?
Yeah, I wished I had friends that would have kept in contact with me, because I miss most of my friends when going through a toxic relationship. I would have loved somebody who said to me, hey Karen, I see that I lost your spark a bit, or you gained weight, you're losing weight. Are you okay? And I probably would have laughed it away. Yeah, okay. But just the fact that she or he would have asked me would have been lovely. And then continue with the fact, hey, you have my number. You can phone me whenever. Because then I would have somebody lined up after I talked to the enabler. I didn't know who to talk anymore, but now I would have I know, okay, I can phone these 3 guys, or I have some family or some friends that are aware of the fact that perhaps I could need help. So being aware of somebody, looking at both sides, first of all, talking to both parties when somebody is divorcing, and not directly believing the most charming of the 2. And when you see that your best friend is not coping well, that she's losing her spark, or he's not hiding a bit, because when you're in a toxic relationship, you're retreating. You're not reaching out that much as before. If you feel that as a friend, don't think, oh, he's not interested in me anymore, or she's not interested in having or being a friend of me. No. She just tries to keep harmony at home. So reach out and keep in touch, even if she's retreating, so she knows that she can count on you.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Carrie. Yeah, being there for your friends, and being just reaching out and telling them that if you need to talk, I'll be here to actually. Yeah, I think that's really encouraging. I really lovely being that. Sometimes I think just talking over some stuff will reduce the burden compared to when you just have yourself to yourself. Right? Yeah.
You just exactly that. I hear you repeating it. I'm just here, and I can feel it in my body. It just feels lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
absolutely.
Amazing. So Karen, tell us about your book and what my audience is going to take away with it when they get to read it.
Well, what I get from the people that are reading my book right now is that you have the victims and survivors that read my book and say, I didn't know it was a system. I'm so relieved, and I can feel that the shame is going away. And when shame is leaving your body, there's something else happening. You get hope. There's some hope coming up. And with the hope, you get a new perspective and you connect again with the world because you know I don't have to be ashamed. When I was going through the toxic relationship, I didn't understand it. I didn't know about the system, and I didn't have the tools to get out, and I didn't have the words to express. Because if people said to me, why did you leave that human being that's so charming? I couldn't express. I didn't have the words. I couldn't express what I felt. I couldn't talk about this. I just didn't have the words, and I didn't have role models. So my book is a guide to take you. What I did is I took some of my own stories that I'm telling, and then I have a theory that exactly explains what he's been doing. If I talk about silent treatment, I give a story about the silent treatment, how it showed up in my life, and then I talk about what is silent treatment exactly and why do they do it. And that's how the book is so it's like a guide guiding you through the toxic system so you better understand. And it gives you the tools on how to step away and how I healed myself, because healing is for everybody is different.
Yeah.
And although toxic relations are different for everybody, each and everybody, when I talk with other survivors, I hear different stories, but the system, the components of the system stay the same. So love bombing, isolation, silent treatment, guys, like these components stay the same.
Yeah, amazing.
So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for the whole of energy. Yeah, and the fact that yes, abuse look the same every now and then. So having more like our tools where you can about take away those shame little by little and get to restore your hope is very, very key to living the life you really need to live. Yeah, amazing, amazing. So Karen, from our audience who would love to reach out to you, to connect with you, get.
Oh, it's easy. CarineVanHee.com. Just my name.com.
Thank you so much, Carine Van Hee. You just remind us that healing from toxic relationship is possible, and that understanding the hidden dynamics is a step towards freedom. And from our audience, reach out to the show notes, and then you get to kind of see the link to how you can reach out to Karen. Yeah, thank you for tuning in to the Making of Me podcast, where every stories help us see the power of resilience and the path to a healthier, stronger self. It's really a pleasure and an honor having you on the show.
It was a
Karen.
pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Aaron.